Okay, fine. Yesterday and day before yesterday, we focused on how to write a small program and how do we execute from the command line, right? And also we have seen data types. There are total 8 data types in Java. Using data types, we can store a value in a variable, right? Int I is equal to 10. Int is a data type. I is a variable. We are storing a value of 10 in a variable I. Right. So like that we can create 8 data types like int, short, byte, long, float, double, char, boolean. So these 8 data types we have seen. So data types will help us to store the values in a variable. That's it. That's what we have seen the first day. Second day what we have seen arrays, if else, for loop, while loop, all these things we have seen. Today we'll be focusing on methods. Okay. Let's see the notepad. I'll write in some small points in notepad. Okay. Any class you take in Java, okay, it contains only variables and methods. A class contains only variables and methods. Let me write down. So how do we create variables? As I told you in the first class, we are going to create variables using the data type, right? Suppose when I say int I is equal to 10. What is I here? I is variable. I is variable. So what are methods? We have seen variables. That is done. What are methods? Once we complete methods and variables, then we'll focus on classes. We'll see the class. We'll start writing the class. What the class contains? Class contains variables and methods. So we call variables and methods in a class as class means yes, class members. We call variables and methods in a class are called as class members. So from now onwards, when I say class members means variables and methods. How do you create variables? Using data types. 8 data types we can create. Using that we can create variables. How do we create methods? Today we are going to see how to create a methods. So methods are very important. What is use of methods? Methods will be useful to perform some functionality. Suppose for example, see, how do you recognize the methods? Methods, see here, this is how you write the methods. I'll explain the syntax just for understanding. As a user, if you see this method name is what? Method name is add. The method name is add. Let me write down. Okay. What are method arguments? Int a comma int b. Method arguments is int a comma int b. Okay. What is the return type of the method? The return type of the method is what? Int. Okay. Okay. So what is the functionality of this method? To add 2 numbers. See, like that you have to understand the methods. Methods perform some functionality, right? So as a user, you should understand how to write the methods, right? What the class contains, as I told you, class contains variables and methods. We have seen variables. Now we are focusing on methods. Methods are very, very important. Why? Because Java contains lot of classes. All these classes contains variables and methods. So as a user, you have to use the methods. See example, system.out.println. Println is a method, we are using it to print the statement in the console. So println is the invocation part. So this method is written somewhere in the class. We are going to invoke that. Okay. So what we'll do now, we have to see the syntax of the method. How do you write the syntax? What is syntax we have to follow when you try to write the methods? Let's see. Okay. Let me open the syntax. See, the syntax is this one. This you have to by heart the syntax of the method. Okay, let's see the syntax of the method. Okay, Control V. See, let me explain everything. Modifier. The modifier can be okay. Modifier can be public, private, protected, default. We'll discuss what are these modifiers. As of now, try to create methods using public. Okay, fine. So what is the return type? So whenever you try to write a method, it should return some value. See, what is the objective? You are asking to add two numbers and give me the output. What is the output you are returning? You are returning an output as int, right? So return type, you can mention what is the value you want to return. What is the method name here? See, you can compare here. See here, modifier, public, return type, integer, method name, add, argument 1, int a, argument 2, int b, the body of the method. See, this is the body of the method. What you are returning return value, what you are returning C, right? The same way I have read the methods. So what we have to do, we have to start writing the methods by our own. Okay, these methods perform some functionality. As I told you, these methods perform some functionality, right? Let's start writing the methods. We'll start writing sample method in the class. Let's see. Let me open Eclipse. It is taking some time. Let it open. Okay, it is loading the workbench and load that Eclipse, and let me change the workspace because we are using H2K workspace. Let me use the same workspace today also. I'll say this notepad also. Okay, it opened Eclipse. Let's see now. Okay, so we started creating examples, right? Some examples, Java examples, the project. Today we see methods. Let's create one package called methods. So what I'm going to write? I'm going to write a one method in the class. Let's write the method in the class. New class. Okay. So first write variables. What the class contains, as I told you, a class contains variables and methods. It is not mandatory, but most of the times, as usual, classes contains variables and methods. So class members means variables and methods. So how to create variable? Using data type. See, int I is equal to 20. So I is here. So how to create method? See, I'll follow the same syntax. Let me copy the syntax and paste it here. So I comment that syntax. I'll follow the same syntax. Okay. So what I told you, the modifier you should follow public as of now. Once we go to modifiers, I'll explain clearly. Okay. Public. Okay. What you are trying to return? I'm trying to return one integer. What is the method name? Add. What are the different arguments? Int a comma int b. This is called as what? Method body. The starting curly braces and ending curly braces, this is called method body. Okay. What we have to write inside the method? See, I'll write int c is equal to a plus b. Right. Then what we have to return? Return c. Right. So this is how you start writing the methods. This we call as method implementation. Okay. What I have done? I have written one variable. I have written one method. Okay. My job is done. My job is done. I have written one method and one variable. Right. So now, how do you run this program? As I told you, you can run here like this. Right. Or else you can try to run in the package explorer. Right click, run as. Again, how do you run this program? In the package explorer, select the program, right click, run as. See, I am not able to see run as Java application. It is not showing. Why it is not showing? This program doesn't contain main method. If the program doesn't contain main method, you cannot run as a Java application. Again, this program doesn't contain main method. Main is a method. It contains only one variable, one method implementation. It doesn't contain main. So without main, you cannot execute the program. So what I'll do now? I'll write a main method. So how to write a main method? See. Okay. What happens when you try to write a main method? Then only you can see an option for running this program. See now, save this program now. Let's go to Package Explorer, right click, run as. You're seeing Java application now, right? Why it has come now? Because we added a main method. Without main method, you cannot execute the program. Okay, so we added the main method. But in the main method, you have to write some statements because invocation happens only for the main. Invocation happens only for the main. It will not execute these lines. It will execute only the main body. The method main body it will execute. Okay. So what I'll do, just see now. So this method we have to invoke here. This method we have to invoke it here in the main method. Again, this method, this variable, I have to invoke it here because when I try to run, see, when I try to run, what happens? Right click, run as Java application. See, we didn't get any output because what you have written in the main, you didn't write anything in the main. See, the body is blank. So what I have to do? What I have to do to access the variables and methods in the class? What I have to do? I have to create a reference variable to access the variables and methods available in the class. What I have to do now? I have to create a reference variable to invoke the methods and variables in the class. What I'll do now, I'll create a reference variable. How to create a reference variable? See, what is syntax of a reference variable? See, class name, reference variable, new class name. This is called syntax. What is the class name here? The class name is method example. See, what is the reference variable? I can keep any reference variable. My understanding, say m. Say new. What is the class name here? This one. So what is the main advantage of reference variable? Reference variable will help us to invoke the methods and variables available in the class. So what I did, I created one variable, I created one method, then I have written a main method. In the main method, if you want to invoke methods and variables in the class, we have to create a reference variable. Using reference variable, I can access the methods and variables available in the class. Right? How do you call? See, m dot. Again, what I'll do? M is a reference variable. M dot. See, add. M dot add. So what we have to pass now? 2, 3. So why are you adding m dot add? Add is a method available in this class. Again, I'll repeat it. See here. What is reference variable? Why we need reference variable? Reference variable will help us to invoke the methods and variables. Okay. What is a variable here? Yes, I is there. What is the method is there? Here, add is there. So these two things I am going to invoke using reference variable. How do you access? Reference variable dot method name, reference variable dot variable name. So what I did now, reference variable dot method name. Method means how do you invoke the method? With the 2 parameters we have to invoke. 2, 3. When I say 2, 3, what happens? I'll show you what happens. See, click on this, control, click on this. See, the cursor is jumping to that method implementation, right? Method implementation, right? And what it is returning? It is returning some integer. So see here. So when I say m dot add, this is invoking what? See. Right? It shows that okay, yes, you are trying to pass 2 parameters. Let me go and invoke add, and it is returning one integer that we are trying to store in C. So how to print C now? So this is how you access the methods. This is called method invocation. So method invocation happens within the main. This is how you invoke the methods, right? Method invocation happens in okay. We cannot call using the class name directly. It's not possible. Okay, I'll explain the topic why it is not possible. As of now, let's see. A class contains, let me make it. A class contains methods and variables. Again, I'm repeating from the beginning. A class contains variables and methods. I declared one variable. I declared one method. What I did now? After that, I didn't write any main method. Without writing main method, you cannot execute the program. So I have written a main method. In the main method, what I have did? I have created one reference variable. What is the main reference variable? You can call the methods and variables available in the class. So what I did now, m dot method example m is a reference variable, m dot method name and m dot variable name. So I'll try to show how to call the variable name. See, Now how to call the variable name? M dot I. See, when I try to pass, M dot I1, see what is the error we are getting? I1 is not there, only I is there. So it will go and check where is I is there or not. Yes, I is there. See, I is there. If you want to check, you can check one more thing also. Control, hold the control button and place a mouse pointer here. See, hold the control button and invoke it. Invoke this one, right? Okay. So that is the objective, right? So what we have did now, we created one method, we created one reference variable within the main method, and we are trying to invoke one variable and one method, right? That is what we did. If you see today's schedule, we'll be focusing on methods, reference variable, static and non-static variables and methods. Static and non-static. Okay. See, if you are able to understand this concept, right? Static is very easy. Static and non-static. I'll explain the topic now. See, again, if anybody is not able to, let me repeat it from the beginning. See, int I is equal 20. I is variable. We are storing value of 20 in a variable I. Okay. This is the method. How do you write a method? You follow the syntax. Modifier. Public is the modifier. Return type int. Method name add. Argument 1 int A. Argument 2 int B. Body of the method int C. C is equal to A plus B. Return value int C. This is how you write the method. Yes, you have done. Then what you have done afterwards? You have created one main method. And what we have to do in the main method? We have to invoke the variables and methods available in the class. How to invoke the variables and methods in the class? We have to use reference variable. Okay. See, that is also explained in the document. You can see this one. See, reference variable. See, what is the reference variable? Using reference variable, we can invoke non-static members of the class. Non-static means what? These are all non-static only. This is non-static. This is non-static. I'll explain you why we need to call them as non-static. Okay. As of now, think reference variable, we can access the methods and variables in the class. How do you access? You have to create a reference variable. How to create a reference variable? Class name. See, class name, reference variable, any variable name, fine. New, class name, parenthesis. So how do you access the method now? M dot add 2, 3, which returns C. Okay. One more point. This C is different. Again, I'm telling this C is different because when you write a C, this is within this block. Within this, the scope is within this block. When you write C, this is within this block. Both are different. Okay. So the scope of the C is within this block. The scope of C is within this block. Okay. That's how it happens. Right. Now M dot add we called. We can give any other name. We can give, say, suppose for example, you write here as output and print output also. So it's a variable name. You can give any variable name. Just for understanding, I gave C, or else if you want to give output also. We are just storing the value. In order to store the value, you can store in a variable name. Any variable name is fine. Okay. Then we can print system.out.println output. How do we access variables? M dot I. Okay. Return is a keyword. See all the keywords in colors. You see, that is a syntax we have to follow. Suppose for example, see, without a return type, there is no method is available. There is no method available without return. Okay. Fine. See, any method, if you want to invoke from the main, you have to invoke using the reference variable. That's what I told you, right? M dot add. How do I come across why need to pass two parameters means I'll show you now. See, let's remove this line again. Let's remove this line. I'll write it again. See, when I say dot, see, I'm seeing lot of options, right? Lot of options I'm seeing. Let's give A. So what it is asking, it is showing you have to pass two parameters to invoke the method add, and it is returning a one integer. What it is saying? Add. Well, let's select this add. It's saying add two. You have to pass two variables. One is for A, one is for B. So I'll just replace with 2, here with 3. And what this method is returning, place a mouse pointer here. What it is returning? It is returning an integer. So I'll store it in an integer. See. So it will only guide us which method to call, what are the parameters for this method, and what it is returning. Okay. This 2 and 3, if you want, you can pass any values. Right? It's not static as of now. You can pass any values. Okay, that's up to you. These parameters you can pass any values. Okay. So m.i. So this is how you invoke the methods and variables in the class. Okay. How do you execute the program now? See. Let's click on this. So what is the output now? We got 2 plus 3, 5, and we print the variable 20. See, these two things we did. See, we are printing output. Output contains what? 5. m.i means what? What the I contains? 20. These two values it got printed. Let me show the console again. Okay, 5 for 2 plus 3, 20 for the variable I. Okay, fine. The scope of I is called global. The scope of I is global. See, whenever you write a variable within the class, see here, the class body is what? This one. The class body is what? This one. So you're writing within the class. I is equal to 20 within the class. So I is the scope within the class. Anywhere you can access I. Anywhere you can access I. But within the main, if you want to access I, you have to use a reference variable. That is the logic you have to follow. Any variable, any method, if you want to access within a main method, you have to access using a reference variable. That is the logic. You cannot access directly I. Suppose for example, let me access I directly. See? It's not possible. See? It's not possible. We cannot access I within the main method. Right? You can access the variables and methods within the class using reference variable. That you have to remember, because this is very important concept. Right? Fine. Let's go to next topic. Okay? Next topic means the same topic only, the extension for this topic. Okay? Again, what are class members? What are class members? Variables and methods. How many types of class members? 2 types of class members. One is static variables. So how many types of class members? 2 types of class members, static and non-static. Static variables, static methods, non-static variables and non-static methods. So what is the difference between the two? Let's see. No, we cannot say dynamic for the static. Okay. Let's see. Public static int I is equal to 20. For static variables. For non-static variables, public int is equal to So what's the difference between this one and this one? What's the difference? The static keyword is the difference. Okay. So what the class contains, a class can contain static variables and non-static variables also. So how do you distinguish? If there is no static keyword here, it is a non-static variable. If there is a static keyword, yes, this is a static variable. Okay. Then what about static methods? Let's see. Public static int add int a comma int b This is called static method. How do you know? Because there is a static keyword. Static is a keyword. Applied for methods, nowhere else. Okay. So then what's the difference between static and non-static method? You copy paste the same thing. You remove static. That's it. There is no change. So actually, if you see here carefully, this non-static variable, non-static methods we already just now seen, right? How do you access non-static variables and non-static methods? Using reference variable, right? How do you access non-static variables and non-static methods? Using reference variable. I'll write down here. Okay, I'll repeat again. See what I told you from the beginning, class contains variables and methods. Okay, a class contains variables and methods, right? What I did now, I created one variable, public int I is equal to 20. I created one more method, add. Why I am saying these are non-static variables and non-static methods? This doesn't have static keyword. How do you access non-static variables and non-static methods? Using reference variable. That's what we have seen in the example. See here, that's what we use. See, this doesn't have static. Yes, this is non-static variable. This doesn't have static. This is non-static method. Fine. How do you access non-static variables and methods? Using reference variable m. So what we have seen just now is an example for non-static variables and non-static method. Then what is the example for static and non-static? Static variables and static methods. We'll see the example for static variables and static methods. Let's see. So I'll copy paste the same thing. Copy this program, paste it here. While pasting, I can save the change the name of the program. See, static members example. Right? I copy pasted the same program, but what I'll change, see here, I'll change here, I'll put static. You can keep public also, not a problem. If you don't put also, not a problem. Here I put static, here also I'll put static. So I'll remove this part now. So how to access static variables and static methods in the class? That is the point here. How do you access non-static variables and non-static methods? Using reference variable. Fine. But how do you access static variables and static methods? Let's write down here. Static variables and static methods are accessed in the main method using using class name. So how do you access static variables and static methods? In the main method using class name. So how do you access? Class name dot method name, class name dot variable name. Right? So let's do the same thing. Class name dot method name. So static variables, static methods are accessed directly in the main method using class name. You don't require a reference variable for static and static variables and static methods. If you have a class name, that is sufficient. See how do you access now? What's the class name? This is the class name. Dot add 2, 3. So what is the output of this is some integer. Two, 3. Sorry, output. Then how do you access the variables? See, class name I. So how do you access non-static variables and non-static methods? Using reference variable. How do you access static variables and static methods? Using class name. If you know this difference, this is going to be carry forward, because any class you take, you'll be having two different types of variables, either static variable or non-static variable. Two different kinds of methods, either a static method or non-static method. So this rule is applicable for Selenium also. When you go for Selenium, you have two kinds of methods, static methods, non-static methods. Non-static methods, how do you access? Using reference variable. How do you access static methods? Using class name. You have to remember these points. Okay, you have to by heart these points. These are very important. Okay, let me run this program now. Run this. We got 5,20. Yeah, so when we'll use static and non-static? Okay, that point we are going to discuss in objects. Okay, when we go for objects, right, then we'll discuss about static and non-static. Let's see, any objects is there? Right. So tomorrow what we are going to do is, tomorrow we are going to discuss about objects. Right? What is an object? What is a class? These two things we are going to cover tomorrow. What the class? Class contains what? Methods and variables. I understand. Right? What is an object? How the object looks like? How to create an object? What happens when you try to create an object? So these points we have to discuss tomorrow. Let me add that to the schedule. Class, objects, constructors. Tomorrow we are going to see these 3 points. What is a class? What is an object? When we use static and non-static. Actually, if you see here, the advantage, advantage you get is, we are not creating reference variable. What happens when you try to create a reference variable? The reference variable, it's like a copy of the class. You are trying to create one copy of the class. That is called reference variable. Reference variable contains one copy. Reference variable is an object. That's what I'm saying. Tomorrow I'll explain this clearly. What is a class? What is an object? Then we'll go to constructors. When I'm explaining objects, I'll explain about static and non-static. In the real-time scenarios, we always use non-static methods and non-static variables. We rarely use static variables and static methods. Okay? What is the advantage here? You no need to create reference variable. What happens when you try to create a reference variable? You get a copy of the class. Okay? I'll tell you tomorrow what is reference variable and what is an object. All these things I'll cover tomorrow. Okay? So this is about methods, static and non-static variables and methods. Okay. Here one more point I have to tell you. One more point which is very important, I'll tell you. See, not every method returns a value. Some methods, they will not return any value. Those methods we have to keep as void. Means what? What I'm saying? Some methods, they will not return any value. Those methods we have to mention as void. See what I have to write. So what is the syntax? Let's follow the syntax. Modifier. I'm writing one more method for our understanding. You can write n number of methods. You can create n number of variables. There is no restriction for you. In a class, you can create n number of methods. I'm creating one more method by applying the syntax. Modifier public. Return type. I'm saying I don't want to return anything. What I have to put there? I have to put void. Void means what? You are not returning anything. What is the method name? Suppose for example the method name is, see what? Subtract. You write subtract. See what is the method body? You say int c is equal to yours. Then you are not returning anything. You should not put return here. If you put return here, what happens? It's an error. See, you are saying void and you are returning something. Void methods doesn't have a return value. Void methods doesn't have a return value. Right? Let me write down here. Yeah, I'll give that. Okay, go ahead and see this. Yes. Public void subtract int a comma int b. Int c is equal to a minus b. The method is not returning anything. It's a void method. Void methods doesn't return any value. Okay. I'll show the notepad also. Let's see the notepad. Same thing I have written here. Void methods doesn't have a return type. Void is a keyword. Void is applicable only for the methods. Okay. So there are so many methods you can create. Few methods they'll return value, few methods they'll not return any value. The methods which are not return any value, we have to mention as void. Right? Void methods doesn't have a return type. Right? Fine. See, if you see here, if you see in the program, main is a method. Main is what? Main is a method. Main is also returning void. Right? If the method has method main is returning void, that's the reason we didn't put any return value here. Otherwise, if the main is also returning some integer, we have to put return that integer value. So void main means main is a method which returns void. Void means nothing. I am not returning anything. Right? That's the reason yesterday people ask me, what does it mean by void? Void means, void is a keyword. When you mention for the method as before that you mention void means I am not returning anything. Okay. So that is the logic. So void methods doesn't return any value. See, as a user you should know what the method does. Right? Whether it returns a value, whether it doesn't return a value, you have to decide. Because I am writing this method, I know what this method does. Right? So I am the user. So I am the user who is going to write this method. Then I know whether it is returning a value or not. If it is returning a value, then I'll put int there and I'll return the integer. If you are not returning anything, you just need to put void and don't return any value. So void methods doesn't return any value. Example, main is a void method. Main is a void method. Let me write down the same thing in the notepad. Main is a void method which doesn't return any value. For example, see, the purpose of void means, see, that's what I'm saying, as a user, we have to know what the method does. It is not mandatorily that every time the methods perform some functionality and return some value. See, suppose for example, I'll write one more method. See, What I have written here? Public void display. What I am saying, this method will only print the value in the console, but it will not return any value. So sometimes it might return, sometimes it doesn't return a value. It will just perform an action. It will not give any output to you. It will just print the value. So void display means the name implies it will just display some output in the console. See, so I am in display. That's it. This is not returning anything, right? So that's what I'm saying. Depends upon the functionality. You can put a void, or if it is returning any value, you can put that return type. That's up to you, right? So there is no mandatory rule you have to follow. But if you are trying to return something, you have to mention the return type here. If you are not returning anything, you have to mention void here, right? That is how you can write. So void methods doesn't return any value. Main is a void method. That's the reason it doesn't return any value. Okay. So that's about today's session. So what we discussed just now, methods, reference variable, static and non-static variables. Okay. See, public static void main, we have to blindly follow that syntax. Even if you change even a small, see, suppose for example, what I'll do, see here, I'll not pass these arguments. See, I'll just remove this because I don't know, I'm a new user. I'll just remove this. What happens? There is no error. There is no error. But see here, when I right click, run as, it is not showing Java application. Why? It doesn't consider that as a main method. Main method compulsory should require string arguments. What I did just now, I removed string arguments for the main method. It considers that that's a some method. It's not a actual main method. That's the reason when you try to go in the left hand side, right click, run as, you see there is no Java application here, right? So what I have to do to make it correct, I'll need to write string now. Let's go and see now. Right click, run as, see. So main means you have to follow same rule, public static void main. Static means what? Static methods, static variables we can access using a class name. Non-static variables, non-static methods we can access using reference variable. Void methods doesn't return any value, right? That is the concept today. So methods return some value, methods may not return some value. If the methods doesn't return any value, those are all void methods. If method some return value, that return type you have to return it. And in the main, method invocation happens. This is called method invocation. This is called method implementation, right? This is how it works, method implementation and method invocation. Is void always non-static? No, void can be applied for static also. There is no rule. See, if you see, main is a static void. You see here, right? Main is a static void. So you can apply void for static and non-static also. There is no rule only to apply for static. You can apply for static and non-static also. But when you see void means it should not return any value. And also Java is case sensitive. Main, you write uppercase, lowercase, both are different, right? If you just put one word called here M, this will be considered as some other method, and you go here and see, right click, run as, you never see Java application because you changed this small m to capital M. That's the reason it's not working. You have to give small m, right? Public static void main, that is you have to follow blindly. Okay, let me, I think I am done. Anybody has any questions, you can ask me. You update the chart history one by one. Who wants to talk to me?
Sudhir, this is Kamakshi.
Yeah, Kamakshi, tell me, Kamakshi.
I try to, write the program in my Eclipse. I am getting error in in that public static void main. So it is giving me error. It is asking me to create a, rename the main.
Mm-hmm.
So when I put main 1, it doesn't throw any error.
Main 1. Okay, okay. So do you have, what's the class name you give?
Class name is static members X.
Right. Okay. And you write public static void main within the class, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'll just take your screen. Okay. What's your Kamakshi, right? Let's see your laptop. Okay. I'm just giving you access. Okay. You just need to accept it. Okay. Public static void main. Okay. Perfect only. What is the problem here? Let me see. Can you give me the control?
Yeah. I think you can have my control. Yeah.
I think I don't have. You have to give keyboard and mouse. There is one option for you. Check that, keyboard and mouse. Okay, okay. There is a space after the main. I think somebody found it. Ananya Bose found it. Okay. There is a space. Yeah. Remove that. Yes. 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 It will work. Yes. Now save it.
No.
I think you already written one method. Go down. Go down. You already written one method main in the down. Go down. Right. That's the reason. Okay. That's a problem.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So who wants to go next?
So, this is Medina.
Yeah, Medina. Tell me, Medina.
Yes, I don't know. Do we need all these for Selenium testing?
Yes, it is mandatory. At least, at least we should know these concepts. Okay.
Are you serious? This is basically coding.
See, this is not actual coding. This is basically we have written small methods because see when you go to Selenium also.
This is small. Okay, maybe because I'm still new to this because.
Yeah,
okay.
see, you have to practice. See, what I mean to say is when I go to Selenium, right? Selenium can be written in 2 ways. Okay, as a core Java you can learn, or else without learning core Java also you can learn. But you cannot learn to a more extent if you don't know Java, right? No, why? Because in the Selenium you have all the methods are there. Some are static methods, some are non-static methods. So how do you access non-static methods? Using reference variable. How do you access static methods? Using class name. If you know these 2 rules, that is sufficient.
Okay.
Okay. See, as I told you, these 2 examples, right? How much you can try to get the content, you try to get it as of now, because you cannot learn in 1 day, right? It might take some time.
I think I'm trying to use my manual test.
Okay.
I'm trying to compare my manual test experience with automation. I mean, I'm taking QTP classes too, and that one is totally different from this one.